Welcome back to What Car Should You Buy, a weekly YouTube series filmed in my parents' basement where I tell you what car to buy and you openly ignore me and get a used Plymouth Grand Voyager. I'm your host, Doug Demuro, and in today's episode we're discussing cheap cars. No, I don't mean Craigslist specials that ran when parked during the Clinton presidency. I mean new cars that cost under $20,000 out the door. It used to be that 20 grand would buy you a lot of car. I say this because I remember my dad coming home from the Toyota dealer in 1998 with a brand new Camry for under 20 grand. And it was a mid-level model with power windows and a cassette player. But today, inflation has wreaked havoc on our automotive purchasing power, which means a modern 20 grand leaves you in a subcompact car or a compact. But there are a lot of choices. So which one do you get? Let's talk cars. To find out which is the best car for the buck, I've enlisted the help of an automotive expert, and also Raphael Orlove. Our expert is named Bob Sorokanich, and he's a contributor to Road and Track and Car and Driver. Raphael, meanwhile, is a Jalopnik contributor and owner of a Volkswagen Beetle that predates Microsoft. Gentlemen, we should get started. We can talk about the Toyota Corolla.
Yes.
Okay. You have a theory on the Toyota Corolla, I understand?
It's better than you think.
It's better than you think?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, you'd think it would be as bad as vehicularly possible, but it's actually kind of nice.
Okay, so we're talking under $20,000 cars. Is that the kind of car you'd recommend for under 20 grand?
Maybe.
Maybe. Toyota's got, what else Toyota? Toyota's got the Yaris. You'd recommend the Corolla over the Yaris?
I would definitely recommend the Toyota over the Yaris. The
Yeah.
Corolla over the Yaris.
Yeah.
The Corolla is silly. The Corolla is silly because you can still get it with a 6-speed manual.
Yeah.
You can't get a Porsche 911 GT3 RS with a manual, but
You can get a Corolla.
Toyota will sell you a 6-speed manual Corolla.
Yeah.
And if you can't have fun in a 6-speed manual Corolla, like, I don't know what you're doing.
Beyond the 6-speed manualness of the Corolla, what do we think about it as an actual automobile?
Oh, it's horrific. No, it's not terrible. The thing is about the new Toyota Corolla is they're lying about it being all new. It's like a revised version of the last one, which was, and I can't totally prove this, a revised version of the one before that.
It's still using the 1.8 liter four-cylinder. It's been using for
Yeah,
years.
you can get like they started selling this thing with a 4-speed auto, which
Right.
gives you a sense of how old the architecture is. But what they did for this one is they like spot welded the whole thing, and so it did some revision to it. So you're basically buying like a brand new car that's actually like kind of old. And if you ask any automotive enthusiast, they'll all tell you that old cars are better. So what you want is Toyota Corolla.
Well, that's an interesting theory. Bob, under $20,000 cars, what are your thoughts?
I really dig the Mazda 3, just because any car under $20,000 that you get is going to have a bit of that like sorority parking lot feel to it. It's going to look like a car that should have 3 Greek letters in pink on the back window. And like the Mazda 3 has that just like everything else does, but it's got a little bit of sportiness. It's got that little like, it's not trying to be any cooler than it is,
Right.
but it's actually kind of enjoyable to drive.
Don't you think that the kind of Mazda 3 you can get for 20 grand is kind of on the stripper level? Like, what does the thing starts at? Like probably 16, 17.
It starts, yeah, like
Because you
It's
get
17. It's like 16, 17 for the sedan, but it's like 18, 19 for the hatchback.
Okay.
right.
And
So
that's
if you
with
want a
no
radio,
features.
you're going to be up in the 19
So
or 20.
I
range.
want, because Mazda has it like adaptive cruise and crap, but that's got to be like $75,000, I bet.
Well, right, yeah, but you don't want that in an economy car.
No, but they sell it. If you really do want it, it's possible. But none of that stuff's under 20. So Mazda doesn't have the 2, but that's kind of gone. We're waiting for the new one, the Scion
Right.
one. Okay. So what are other good? The Honda Fit is a good car. Is a good small car.
Great little car, quirky little car, and it's like that's the same thing. It doesn't look like it's trying to be a $30,000 car for $20,000.
Right.
It's a little roller skate, And I sort of like that quirky charm about it.
Have you
Right.
driven that thing?
I haven't.
The new one.
So the only thing I'll say about that car is the engine is like the world's angriest sewing machine. And as someone who drives a ridiculously obnoxiously loud car all the time,
Yeah.
and like I always deal with droning on the highway, like when when my coworker Mike told me about it, I was just like, Mike, you're crazy. It can't be that bad. And then like I sat in it and I was just like, all right, no, this is actually pretty bad.
Really?
If you get the manual.
What do you think the problem is? Is it the motor loud or is the car just not like insulated well?
I mean, the motor is loud. If you run it with like the hood up and you listen to it, you can just hear it like dug, 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 dug. And if you get the manual, it's like geared in just such a way that when you're like cruising on the highway, it's like
It's loud.
super buzzy.
Interesting.
But if you have the CVT, it goes away.
One of the things I like about the Fit is that it's got the new Fit has Honda the lane watch,
Right.
which is one of the great features. Have you seen this? Where you put on the turn signal and the camera turns on and it shows you what's behind you. I mean, this is so good. Everybody else has that little orange light in the mirror that like blinks when you're about to hit something.
Which is useless.
Which is essentially useless because you got to verify what it is anyway, and it's often like a ladder. But the Honda Fit,
A ladder on the highway.
well, sometimes there's ladders. You know what I mean?
Doug's from Philly.
we get ladders, we get lamps. So Honda Fit. So we agree. Would you rather have Mazda 3 or Honda Fit for 20?
For 20 on the nose, I got to go with the Mazda. It's got that little edge of like, it hasn't forgotten what driving feels like, you know, and the Fit, as good as it is, it feels a little tinny. Like it's almost there, but it's lost a little bit of that edge that the first generation Fit had. The first generation Fit was great to drive.
The first gen Fit was cool.
New one's a little bit diluted.
They're going for more an everyman.
Right, yeah. And I feel like such an automotive journalist saying this, but like the old one was better, you know?
Yeah, understood. What about, talk about good cars to drive, what about Fiesta? Fiesta drives pretty well.
Fiesta's so much fun to drive.
Fiesta's a great car, even if you don't get the ST, which is a fantastic car.
Even if you get the totally base one, it's hilariously fun to drive. Particularly if you live near a dirt road and you're familiar with lift-off oversteer or left-foot braking. You can go very, very sideways in it, which is.
Do you have something to tell the Ford press office?
No.
No, we're gonna.
No, I don't.
Absolutely not. There's no dirt roads here. But the Fiesta's pretty good, right? And that's more than in the price range.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people buy the sedan, which is a mistake.
The sedan is a very odd-looking vehicle.
I kind of like the way the sedan looks.
It's
like,
very unusual.
You see so many hatchbacks around, and they all look exactly the same. When you see a little Fiesta sedan, it's like, oh, you know, that person didn't close their eyes and point at the cheapest car on the lot. That person actively said, give me the weird-looking one. And I like that.
The Fiesta's got one of the few cars with a sedan where the hatch vastly outsells the sedan. You never see the sedans. Right?
Yeah, it's a conscious choice to buy the sedan. You've got to go in there and say, I want to look like I'm driving
I would buy the hatchback.
Saucer.
Just to be clear, I would personally purchase the hatchback. But I agree. The sedan, you see it, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
The sedan is hideous.
It's bizarre. I think it looks kind of third world. I think it looks like
it is
the
in
kind
the
of thing
best
in
way.
Mexico or something like that, which is cool. Right?
Yeah, it's got a little tumor on the back.
So, do we like Fiesta more than Fit?
I would buy a Fiesta over a Fit.
You'd buy a Fiesta over a Fit. Would you buy
For sure.
Would you buy anything else over a Fiesta? What is your favorite of these?
Well,
I'm saying Mazda 3.
I'm sticking with it.
The other one that we didn't talk about, which is on my short list, and which is what I actually tell people to buy, is the Hyundai Elantra GT.
Right, which is the hatchback. So there's
everyone forgets.
Hyundai's got a two-door coupe. Although they don't anymore. It's like gone for this model year, but maybe it'll come back. They got a sedan.
Yes.
And they got a 5-door hatchback. That's the GT.
And the 5-door hatchback has like very little to do with the actual sedan. It's a European Hyundai i30 that for some reason they brought here. They did it with the last version too. But basically you're getting something which was designed to compete with like an upper-end Golf in like a really, really crowded European market that for some reason some Hyundai executive decided they should bring to America for whatever reason, even though no one even knows we have them. But you can get it, 6-speed auto, you can get 6-speed manual in it. Like it's not necessarily the most fun car to drive, but it looks great. And
value packed.
It's a little expensive. It's like $18,800 to start.
So Elantra's for the viewer, the Elantra is the Corolla competitor, right? So the Hyundai competitor would be the Accent to the Fiesta would be the Accent and the Kia Rio. Right. But nonetheless, so 18 for the GT specifically.
Yeah, and like if you can get a deal on that thing, like I would totally look into it because it's like neat car. You never see them around.
Yeah, they are very unique on the road.
Yeah,
I like them a lot.
They are unique. I haven't driven a new Elantra. I've driven a new Forte, which is fairly similar. I loved it. I thought it was an excellent car.
Those things. The new Kias look great.
Plus, it had a ventilated seat. I don't have a ventilated seat. I got a Range Rover.
Yeah, seriously.
What is that about? You know what I mean?
Wow.
What about the Spark and the Sonic? Have you driven those?
I've driven the Sonic. I haven't driven the Spark.
What do you think of the Sonic?
I don't mind the Sonic. I really dig how the Spark looks, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Like it just looks so out there.
It totally looks out there.
Yeah, and I really dig that. Like the Sonic is nice to drive. It feels a little heavier than it should. It feels a little bigger than it should for a car that's, you're sitting in the driver's seat and you could swear that you're driving a midsize. And not.
You're saying this in a bad way.
Yeah, not in a confidence-inspiring way. This car feels like it's 800 pounds heavier than it is.
Right.
The Spark, though, is cool.
The Spark seems kind of cool. It's really low
I love
on
the
power.
little dashboard on that.
Yeah.
The little motorcycle-style dashboard.
Does it bother you that the Spark's headlight is the size of its driver's side door?
I mean, that's happening with everything.
You know what I mean?
You know?
It's
Yeah.
bizarre. Like
It
this
is.
headlight is like this.
It is big, and I mean, the part that actually lights up is like a fifth of the size of the overall
What's that
headlight.
about?
thing.
Don't you think it'd be cheaper for them to put in sheet metal rather than more headlight? Let's get it more headlight.
This is actually a sign of a country's economic prosperity, is
Ah,
how big
yes.
its headlights are.
Yes. No, you're correct.
So, America
Measured
number
by
one.
the UN.
So those are the other tiny. So what about, is the President under 20?
Ooh, is it?
There's not
really
much you can get with
doubt
all-wheel
it.
drive for less than 20 grand, I imagine.
I don't think so.
Maybe a total stripper in President, but maybe not.
Yeah. Maybe. I'm gonna look that up.
It's just blood.
The
Go
other
to
video is
jalopnik.com.
Raphael gets something out of his pants.
What about,
20 minute
can you
video.
still get a Mini under 20 grand?
Ooh, I don't think so.
If you do, it's got like no
It's a total
doors.
stripper.
Yeah.
And it's a
And who
base.
likes the new Mini?
You don't like the new Mini?
No.
Not a fan.
I think it's a little weird looking, but it's still a fun car.
Is it?
Well,
But you have
come
to-
on, you don't like it because they did a four-door, which they should have done from the very beginning. They made a huge mistake by not doing that from the get-go.
I suppose.
Yeah, I don't mind the Mini, so I don't know what they started there. So step above the Fiesta, we got the Ford Focus.
Focus is the same. Focus is like the same pricing as the Mazda 3. So it's like you think of the Focus that you want, and you look at the starting MSRP, and so it's like it starts at like 17.1.
Right.
But then you look at the one you actually want, and it's like
And it's more.
It's like 19.
So here's the question:
20,
would you
22,
now? He's
23.
saying Bob's saying that he would rather have a fairly basic Mazda 3 than a well-equipped, whatever Fit or whatever.
Right.
What do you think about that? I mean, if you could have a well-equipped Fiesta or a sort of low-spec Focus, we're talking about a $20,000 price cap. Which do you think you'd get?
I think I get like the. Well, it depends. It depends on the car, because it's like some of the specs you really, really want, and some of it is just like a bunch of bullshit that you don't really care for. Like,
Right.
I don't need like a bunch of nice stuff in my small car.
Right. But wouldn't you kind of like to have it?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of cool to have all that stuff?
Well,
isn't it nice to have those alloy wheels?
I mean, there's some interior stuff that you really do want. I mean, like, don't forget, like, some of these cars are really just, the insides of them are just awful. And it's
Yeah.
like you don't want to be sitting around in like some like.
So you're saying sometimes it does make more sense to go the Mazda 3 route.
Yeah, and it's like it's really car to car. Like sometimes like
Yeah.
a really bad plastic interior is fine, and it's like who cares that it's like whatever. But sometimes
Right.
there's like a look to it, and it just degrades your life. And you're sitting there and you're like scratching the panels. You can hear it on your commute weighing. on
Boy,
your soul.
wow! I hope that you're gonna name names here. Do you have any specific vehicles that you
I
feel
don't
this
know.
way
They
about?
come around.
And I mean, it's the most disappointing thing in the world, too, when you see a dashboard that looks really nice and it's made out of play school plastic.
Yeah.
Like, when the design is nice but the materials are terrible, it sucks the
Cost
life
cutting
out of you.
at its worst.
Yeah.
I mean, like you would know this. I mean, you'd be surprised at how nice a car you can get that still has everything like south of like the horizon line on like the dashboard is just like.
It blows me away how expensive. Yeah, it blows me away that $40,000-$50,000 cars still have various pieces that are like, I can't
Right.
believe you guys did this.
Yeah.
Honda Civic, thoughts? That was the gold standard for a long time.
Yeah, and for so long that it's like you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I grudgingly respect the Civic. I don't recommend it to people just because, like, I don't know. I don't like the idea of all of my friends and family driving the
Civics.
exact same car.
So a lot of your friends and family do drive Civics.
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid that.
Unfortunately.
You can't avoid that.
It's unavoidable, yeah.
When you find yourself not recommending the Civic, don't you find people purchasing it anyway, regardless of...
Oh, people don't listen to any of my recommendations.
That's a shame.
Well, that's the thing about recommending a car is all people want to do when they ask you a recommendation is they just want you to affirm whatever they're
Right,
saying.
and you should
Right.
just do that. Volkswagen. Does Volkswagen have anything second? Volkswagen's they sell a Jetta. What do we think of the Jetta? A
They'll sell you a
resounding...
Golf for under 20 grand.
So you can get a Golf, you can't get a Jetta under 20 grand?
Ooh, I mean, you could.
Well, Jetta's got to be the same cost as
if
Focus.
you get closer to like 25 or 26, you're in a really nice Golf or Jetta.
Okay.
Like
This is true.
you're in one with great options, looks nice, got nice wheels on it, drives really nice. If you're trying to skate in under 20,
It's not gonna happen.
You're in the VW penalty box.
You're in the penalty box. But you don't think this is the case for Mazda?
They're not as blatant about it, you know.
The Jetta has been updated for 15 with a better interior. As much as I'm not the Volkswagen's biggest fan, I don't know if that's ever come out. But the Jetta it is a little bit nicer on the inside now.
Yeah.
The 12, the one that came out like 11 or 12 was
It was real
middling.
chintzy.
Yeah.
Because they had so many troubles with like the Mark IV, where it had a really great soft touch interior that fell apart if you sneezed.
Fell apart. But yeah, right, because they had to hit a price point on it anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so what about What about Kia Soul? People like the Kia Soul. They got the hamsters in the commercials. No one will ever let them forget that.
It's one of those cars you sort of forget about because you see it everywhere, and it's like background. You know, you don't even notice them anymore.
It's a pretty good car, though, right?
It's a really decent car, and I mean, super roomy.
Without
being big on the outside.
Good fuel economy, good for the money.
Yeah, and it's a tall, boxy thing that you can fit a ton of stuff in.
Yeah.
Actually, a pretty decent car.
The Forte is their comeback sedan. I would much rather have the Soul, I think.
Oh,
than the
absolutely.
Forte.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of situation, but you get twice as much, not twice, you get the idea. You get a lot more space, and I think it's kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
And when you're old and decrepit, it's easy to get in and out of. And why would you not want to tell the world that you function well if you were old and decrepit?
Is that a car for old people?
Yes, it's a car for old people.
You think
That's
so?
one of those cars that when they designed it, they thought it was going to be for 19 to 25-year-olds. And then everybody who appreciated the practicality of it was retired.
I will never forget when the XB came out, the same XB came out.
Same thing, same exact thing.
They thought it'd be young kids who customized, and it ended up being, housewives. What about Nissan? No, so Nissan makes a couple cars we haven't discussed. Nissan has, well, first off, there's the Sentra, which never really gets brought up.
Right.
For good reason.
And shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. We're off the Sentra.
Shame the Sentra.
All right, I'm not going to go. There's the Versa.
Yes.
Which is real cheap. And then the hatchback is called the Note.
Right.
That's a reasonably okay car. If you have, for the very basic.
Everything I've heard about that has been a total disappointment.
But for 13 grand or whatever it is.
Well, if you're going to get like 13 grand, what I would actually suggest is a car that I've driven. And this is a very controversial car because some people really hate it. But it's the Mitsubishi Mirage. If you want to talk third world, that car is third world.
Well, I don't. That's the thing. I don't live in the third world, so I'd like to have a first world car, which is the Versa.
You lift up the hood and there's like overspray underneath it. And there's something about it that is like, there's an incurable feeling about it that it's just really enjoyable to be operating that.
But maybe because you're driving around in a press car. Would you purchase this automobile with your own money? Think about Mitsubishi's long-term prospects before you answer this question.
And that's also that's one of those sociological experiments that seems like it would be really cool. And you know that there's one guy out there who bought a new Mirage on the basis of it being the cheapest new car you could buy. And a week later just decided that he hated his life because of it.
Well, it's like
that shit gets old quick.
I think there are a few things you need to...
Doesn't it? Driving around in a press car in a week is one thing, but if you had to actually own this automobile...
Well, I think it depends on a lot of things. Like, again, if you get the automatic or the manual, and if you get I think actually a lot of it is, truth be told, on paint.
You want purple.
If you get like black or white or gray, it's sad.
It's sad. But
if
purple,
you get lime green,
and they got the lime
you're fun
yeah.
all the time.
Does it not strike you that car sort of feels like it would be more at home in about 1997?
Yes.
Like when you sit in that car, you think to yourself, this car would be more at home in 1997. The thing
I might go like 93, actually.
The thing it's not appropriate. The Versa Note is like a modern take on the Mitsubishi Mirage, even though they're both contemporaries.
Yeah, but I don't know. Everything I haven't driven it, but everything I heard about it is it's kind of like the interior's not that great.
It's not, but it's a cheap car. Now Nissan's other vehicle in this space is the Juke. So the Juke we just found out starts at just under 20. You'd have to get like a total stripper Juke, unless you get a deal, which presumably exists because Juke's been out for a while.
Right.
What do you think of Juke?
Cool little car. I think the Juke is the car you get if you want the versatility of the Kia Soul, but you don't want to look like you're driving a Kia Soul. That is another car that you buy it knowing full well you're going into it to buy a weird looking car that your neighbors are going to hate.
Right.
And I like that.
Yeah. I think it's cool. People clamor for interesting cars. Don't buy Camrys. And then Nissan comes out with this. This is the kind of thing. It's like the Cube. The Nissan comes out. This is the kind of thing that is interesting.
And it's practical. Yeah. It seats as many people as comfortably as a Soul would.
Totally.
And it just looks goofy as hell in the best possible way.
I think it looks so cool. I think they're great cars. But 20 is kind of pushing it, apparently, with the Juke. So what about the Juke's rivals? Are this new segment of like Jeep Renegade and all that? Those things are pretty cool. Like new subcompact SUVs.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I dig the Renegade.
Renegade's cool.
Just because I am an avowed Jeep apologist. And a Renegade is a car that you can recommend to somebody without saying, yes, and don't go around corners faster than 50 miles an hour. Or don't take it in the rain.
Right.
It's the Jeep that you could recommend to your elderly uncle and not have to make excuses.
What Jeep could you not take in the rain?
if you're recommending a
melt?
Wrangler,
yeah.
with
You
a
don't take a
soft
Wrangler
top,
in the other
it
way.
comes with all these caveats about like
You're right.
don't park it somewhere where somebody can walk along.
You're
with
saying
a butter
Renegade
knife
is like
and
a
break
cool
in.
Jeep, but it doesn't have the practicality limitations of the Wrangler.
Right.
Plus it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And fuel economy, and it's got all these electronic features. And stuff.
it's basically a front-wheel drive economy car
Right.
wearing cool Jeep clothing.
Cool Jeep clothing. That's important because Jeep tried to come out with a front-wheel drive economy car wearing cool Jeep clothing before, and it didn't really work. But the Renegade actually is kind of cool.
It looks cool, and it's actually very decent to drive. Like it drives like a sporty little hatchback. It doesn't drive like a Jeep.
Somebody told me that you were a Jeep guy. Would you take the Jeep over the Mazda 3?
Oh man.
The Renegade.
See, that is so apples to oranges because if you
certainly.
if you buy a Mazda 3, you're resigned to the fact that you're going to stay on paved roads, basically, unless it's a rental. Whereas if you buy a Renegade,
Not untrue.
you may never take that thing off road, but in the back of your mind, there's that little inkling that's like, yeah, man, I could totally go camping.
And you could at least top a curb or something. But I mean, 20 grand, they're probably both around the same price.
Well, what about, would you do Renegade or would you do like base Impreza?
Oh no, that's a good question.
Because you see people in those like base, super base Imprezas around.
And
With hubcaps.
they look like the basest Impreza in the
man.
world
Yeah,
too.
they
Subaru does not dress those things up. They
No.
really want you to get the nicer version.
Yeah, and like it's amazing how the same body style can look so different when it's on Steelies
right?
with that black rubber texturized body cladding versus $5,000 up, you've got a car that looks like 2/3 of a WRX.
And frankly, the WRX itself, right, still runs
Yeah.
basically the same body, and it actually looks like a really cool car.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I mean, we'd rather have the Renegade than the base
Absolutely.
Impreza.
Because I think what you end up with like the Impreza is, now if you're not like living in like, Maine, I think basically what you end up getting is like a Corolla with worse fuel economy.
Yeah. But the Renegade must be a little bit over 20. All right, so what about Fiat? Fiat 500?
I like it.
Like it?
Yeah.
I really dig it. And it's the kind of small, cheap car that still has a little bit of attitude to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks goofy.
Right.
You have to love the look. You can't buy that car if you're iffy on the way that
Right,
it looks.
right,
You
right.
have to own that cloyingly retro design.
Yeah.
But I think they're kind of fun to drive.
Yeah.
And even the base model ones, the base model doesn't look like a base model.
No. They've done a good job making it look like almost like a mini competitor, even though ultimately
Yeah.
it's a lot of money cheaper. Now, it's
Yeah.
not as fun to drive, but it still looks pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
What about the 500L? That's a great car, isn't it? It's got a see-through A-pillar.
I've actually
give that a
heard good
thumbs
things
down.
about how it drives, but it causes me discomfort.
There's nothing
when
like
I
a
look
see-through.
at it.
Why is that? Because it's built in Serbia? It has a see-through A-pillar.
I have nothing against the Serbians.
I'm sure the
They're proud
visibility out
automotive
of it
tradition.
is very nice.
See-through A-pillar.
That's not a strong enough quote. That little triangle of glass is not enough to make up for the rest of the fucking car.
So we're
true.
pro 500, we're anti 500L. It should
The
be
smart
noted.
thing to do would be for Fiat to bring over the Panda.
Yeah,
I would buy
agree with
that.
I suspect it would
in a
never meet our
heartbeat.
criteria. I imagine the only reason they haven't is because it would take some dramatic re-engineering to get it to meet our safety regulations.
Yeah,
and
maybe
stuff.
the next one or the next one after the next one. But I might even get I would be very inclined to check that over a Fit, and I would not be surprised if it actually ended up being a lot more fun to drive than a Fit.
There's a 500X.
That's true.
The
That's a Renegade.
yeah. So we're pro 500, we're anti 500L.
Right.
Yeah.
Fiat is still on the 14 model year for the 500L. They haven't come out with 15 yet. They have so many unsold 14s. They haven't decided to move
I wonder
on.
why that is. It's probably because the car's so good.
So
that
many people are wooed by the see-through A-pillar.
They're waiting on it. They're just like, let's just let it,
Like a fine wine.
Exactly.
And
Like
that's
a
what the
Montepulciano.
Fiat 500L kind of feels like. So, quick take, under 20 grand. What would you get?
It's going to be the Mazda 3. I'm
Mazda
sticking
3.
with it.
Sticking with it, as you should. Raph.
6-speed Corolla.
6-speed Corolla.
I'd do it.
And I strongly believe in the Ford Fiesta hatchback.
Amen.
Or the sedan, if you feel so inclined. Both are fantastic.
Cool. Well, it's great that we came to this conclusion.
Well, it's good that we came to this widely disparate conclusion, and we all know Raph would actually rather have a
Yeah.
70s BMW. All right, well, cool. Thank you, guys. And up next, we're going to talk about the best used car you can get for under $20,000 with Tavarish. Many of you who regularly read Jalopnik know Tavarish as the guy who tells you what cool used car you can buy for the same price as a Craigslist iPhone. Now he's here every week to counter our new car bias by finding the best used car you can get for the same price online, culled from reader responses. What do you have for us today, Tavarish?
Well, Doug, while $20,000 on the new car market might buy you a car that has a seat made of rusty nails and Chinese glue, on the used car market, that's enough cash to get you a dream car without having to eat some frankly insane depreciation.
That is interesting. All right, what you got for us?
Well, first up, we have a 2007 Mercedes-Benz S550, a car after my own heart. It was submitted to us by Mini Fanatic, which is actually an ironic name given the suggestion. This car is huge and is essentially future-proof. It has double-pane glass, it can stop and go by itself in traffic, and if it senses a crash coming on, it shuts all the windows, tightens the seatbelts, and brakes for you. So it makes it an almost pleasant place to be in the event of an accident.
It would be a good place to spend some time in traffic.
I think it also might play some Kenny G afterwards, but that's unconfirmed. I actually own an older version of this car, and it's actually easy to work on and surprisingly affordable to repair, if and when things do go wrong.
You think the 07 is as easy to work on as yours is?
I think it might be a little easier.
Really?
Yeah, because the process in which they make the car, it's a lot more streamlined. They had a lot of elements of hand making stuff in the W220, like especially with the AMGs, but this is like all robot made, and it's like. So, well, I think this car is the best used car value on the market, just luxury-wise, bar none.
Absolutely. Until it breaks, and then Mini Fanatic refers to the size of your wallet. Oh, God. All right, what else you got for us?
Well, next is a car I think you're a little familiar with. It's a 1993 Mercedes-Benz 500e.
Ah, yes.
And that comes to us from a commenter named Lippitz. I think if you ask kids all over the world to draw a Mercedes-Benz, you'd probably end up with this car. What's great about the 500e, above the fact that it was hand-assembled by Porsche and has huge wheel arches and a 322 horsepower V8, is that it can blend in perfectly with any car in your dentist parking lot.
True.
Most people won't know how rare it is, and the ones who do probably have one of their own anyway.
True.
So
True.
it's like the 1993 version of a German Dodge Hellcat.
I think that's a reasonable way to sum it up. That was an amazing car. I love that car.
Yeah, I mean, well, this example went for just under 13 grand, so you could probably spend the rest of the budget on essentials like fuel and tires.
Tires which you'll need often.
Yeah, you're going to need that a lot.
I bought mine for $9,900 from a Fiat dealer. They didn't know what they had. Some guy traded that and a boat in on a Mini Countryman.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a fun car. Handles well.
Wow. that dealer got the upper hand on that, I'll just say.
It was sort of an interesting. Anyway, all right, what else you got?
All right, well, last we have a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit from the year of our Lord, 1981.
So you get like a Honda Fit, or you get a Silver Spirit?
Well, yeah, I mean, now you're in competition with, a 2-year-old Honda Civic, right? Well, this was suggested by Brian Griffin, which is funny because on Family Guy he drives a Prius.
A Prius, right. This is kind of the opposite of a Prius.
Right. Well, this Rolls is so aristocratic that it probably uses the word undesirables in its owner's manual. Now, a lot of people comment and tell me that they'd have to sell their kids into slavery to pay for the repair, repairing these used luxury cars, right?
Right.
And in most instances, I just brush them off as people who panic when they hear the brake squeal. But with this Rolls, they might be right. I think.
We got finally a concession from the great Tavarish that there might be a car too unreliable.
Well, here's the reason. I mean, the brakes and suspension use the same fluid, so if one springs a leak, bring a change of pants, and probably an extra bank account. So this car is listed at 15 grand, which is under budget, but it's not a bad price when you consider that it's in competition with essentially a 2-year-old Honda Civic 4-door DX.
Right, and the Silver Spirit was the big Rolls of the day. It was the phantom of its time. It was the flagship model.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they also had
people think you're really cool if you drive one of that.
Either that or something went horribly wrong. You used to be a celebrity, but
right. That's exactly right. People either think you're really cool or they know better. Yeah, it's like those are your only two options.
You're like a one-hit wonder, Rod Stewart type of guy.
All right, so that's great. That would be an interesting choice for under 20 grand. Not my personal choice, but we all have our opinions.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Tavarish,
and
thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll be talking about all the cars we've discussed today in the comments below and on Jalopnik. And don't forget to subscribe for some more great Jalopnik content. Before you go, I leave you with this question: what do you think the LE stands for in Corolla LE? Limited edition? Love, everyone? Life expectancy? Life expectancy.
Right in the face.
All right, this is under 20,000. C block, take one.
Our expert is named sorry, start again.
Bobber Sorbach.
Well, that has been a lovely, scintillating discussion of under $20,000 cars. We've all agreed that Ford Fiesta is the best one. And except for the other two, they didn't agree with that, but that's fine.